Sometimes ideas are really dumb. I think it's imperative that you understand that you are a creator. Every person has a divinity within them, a divine right. People say stress is the number one killer. Stress is the number one thing that we need. It's important for me to work hard every day. When you get momentum and you get movement, I say all the time, motion is the lotion. My purpose is to make the world a better place to live. People will ask, how do you be creative? Put yourself up against the wall and do some work that you're not used to. Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Saturday School. I'm your host, Mark Smelly Bell. We're on page 43 because I said so. That's the page we're always on. I sound like I'm breathing heavy and I sound like I'm fat. It's because I'm fat and I'm breathing heavy. And in this case, I'm on a jog. Multitasking. Never do one thing at once. Always do two things at twice. That's what we're doing here today on the Power Project. And today, we're going to talk about something that I hear some people sometimes say that they're not. I hear people often say, I'm not creative. You know, that's not my strength. I don't know how to be creative. Well, here's the cool thing, and here's news that you may not ever heard before. We are all creative. We can all create. We can all make. Maybe you're not witty, or maybe you're not an inventor. Maybe when someone says, hey, can you come up with a cool marketing strategy for the products that we sell? Maybe you're not the first one to put your hand up. But it's not because you don't have an idea. It's because maybe you don't have the confidence in yourself to share that idea. Because when I think about ideas, sometimes ideas are really dumb or dumb sounding at first. They sound like they don't really solve a problem sometimes. And then you think about it more and you're like, wait a second, that does solve some problems. A good example would be the Squatty Potty, which has sold millions of products, right? Millions and millions of items. The Squatty Potty, it's to basically jam your legs up higher, have your knee be above your hip crease, get you below parallel for when you're taking a shit, right? Now somebody had to come up with this idea somehow. Now, I don't know if they were watching like National Geographic or they were just in the woods one day and them and their friends had to take a dump in the woods. And they're like, yo, when you're in an Olympic level below parallel squat, ATG squat, you can shit like you wouldn't believe. You shit out an extra foot of fecal matter. And it's another friend gets like, hey, I don't know, man. That doesn't sound right. And they're like, you got to try it. And you go and try it, and sure as shit, they were correct. So sometimes when we're thinking of creativity, I think some of us are worried about what other people are going to say. Or someone's going to say, oh, that exists already. Or it's one of the worst things that happens when you mention an idea or something creative is that you have people that will shoot stuff down. And they'll say the problem with that is, and that's actually really easy to do. However, somebody sharing a criticism with you is actually really helpful because it can help advance the movement. It can help advance what it is that you're thinking of. So someone could say, I don't understand the Squatty Potty thing. Like, how's it going to help people? Well, it's going to help. A lot of people have trouble with their bowel movements. A lot of people have digestive issues. And if we think about it from like a nature standpoint, maybe we can sell this item by saying, hey, this is the way our ancestors did it. They would squat down, dig a little hole, and do their thing that way, right? And, you know, it's easy for people to point out the problem and say, oh, if you're going to make a product like that, it's going to cost a lot. Oh, you know, that's going to be a big item. It's going to be really hard to ship. But those are all, again, those are great ideas, because someone else might say, hey, well, how about we make a version that folds in half so it's smaller? How about we try to make it lighter so it costs less? It starts really driving a lot of ideas. So what I want to share with you right now is try this out right now with some, let's have you pick a category of something that you really enjoy. Hunting, running, lifting, whatever it is. And I want you to think about that topic or subject, or think about your job. And you're going in, you're going to tell your boss about an idea. Or wherever it is you work, maybe you own your own company. I want you to put your mind in a place to think of the worst idea possible. What are the 3 worst ideas that you could come up with? Imagine you're a meathead like me and you're thinking about lifting. And you're like, I wonder what would happen if I electrocuted myself during lifting. And you're like, man, lifting's already so uncomfortable. Why would I choose to electrocute myself during lifting? Well, maybe that'll elicit some sort of strength adaptation. People smell that weird smelling salts before they lift, and it helps them lift more weight, right? So maybe you electrocute yourself and you end up being 3% stronger. And maybe because you're 3% stronger, because you got electrocuted, maybe over time, that input stays in the body. And as a result, we're stronger with and without the product that electrocutes you. Oddly enough, there are things that are made and invented and created. You've seen bodybuilders use it before, where it will send electronic signals, or electric signals, I should say, to a muscle to get further activation. I've had people hook me up to these machines myself. They'll put on like your quads or your biceps, and you do a bicep movement and you get double the recruitment. So that's just one simple way on how you get in the right frame of mind to create. But the first step is that you recognize that you are a creator. There's stuff that you create right now that you don't even know, you don't even think about. As we pass by this school, I'm reminded of how creative sometimes little kids can be, because their ideas and dreams haven't been shot down yet. You know, one of them could tell you some crazy ass story about how they want to be an astronaut, but they don't want to wear a helmet. And you say, well, how would you not wear a helmet? And they'll probably make up something that sounds like the worst idea ever. But hey, you never know. Start combing through some problem solving. Maybe you could figure out how to be an astronaut without wearing a helmet. And so I think it's imperative that you understand that you are a creator. The second thing is throw stuff at that idea. You know, you can start with the worst idea, but you can also start with criticisms of the idea once you have an idea. Criticism and conjectures are really important to the expansion and creation of knowledge. All of us have the ability to create knowledge and create new knowledge within ourselves. Somebody shows us something and boom, it's inputted. It's like, oh, don't use the flathead screwdriver for that, use the Phillips. And then you are like, oh, okay, that little design that's etched in there is for the Phillips screwdriver, not the flathead. and you will never again use the wrong tool for the job. Much like utilization of like something like an Allen wrench or something like that. Once you see that pattern, you know, you might like grab something that's the wrong size, but you're not going to grab something that's completely wrong in the first place. And so I think it's important that we understand we have one of the coolest abilities. In my opinion, it's a divinity. Every person has a divinity within them, a divine right to be creative and to come up with ideas and to come up with solutions. My cameraman right now is on a one wheel, cruising around filming me. I don't know if somebody intended that one wheel to be utilized for filming, but it has a lot of uses other than what it was made for in the first place. So sometimes an idea can be an expansion or an abbreviation or a small departure from another creation, such as my Sling Shot. I was a power lifter for many years, stuffed myself into every bench shirt you could think of, spent many hours powerlifting and putting myself through the paces, and I learned over time how effective a bench shirt was in helping to increase your raw bench press, and how effective a bench shirt was in helping you mitigate injury to some extent. But a bench shirt was too hard, too stiff, too expensive. And so I started to think about, maybe I can make something similar that allows you to train. A bench shirt also doesn't allow you to train in full range of motion. So I was like, let me think about how you can still train with a full range of motion. Let me think about how you can have something that's way easier to put on and not so damn difficult to utilize, something that has like a level of convenience to it. And so that's how I started combing through this idea of like an intermediate bench shirt almost. Something that is maybe a little similar to a bench shirt, but way more convenient, way cheaper, and less ridiculous to wear.
We've talked to countless guests on the podcast about the importance of strong, functional feet. And most people's feet don't function the way they should because of years of wearing narrow toe box shoes that over time weaken the feet and then actually don't allow the toes to function the way they should. Most shoes are casts and the toes don't move. That's why I've partnered with Peluva. Now, Peluvas are flat, wide, and have a 5-finger design so that whenever you wear the shoes, you're now getting the benefit of toe space. And that space that's being created through your toes is going to allow your feet to begin to function the way they should, literally all day long. You can wear these shoes while running, you can wear the shoes in the gym, you can wear the shoes while relaxing. Anywhere you want, you can wear Peluvas while getting the benefit of toe space. Andrew, how can they get it?
Yes, that's over at peluva.com/powerproject. That's PELUVA.com/powerproject. And at checkout, enter promo code PowerProject15 to save 15% off your order. Again, peluva.com/powerproject. Links down in the description as well as the podcast show notes below.
So in coming up with the Sling Shot, one of the things that happened was I got injured. I tore my pec several times. And I was just thinking of, before that time, before I had some of those injuries, I would run into people and they would tell me, I used to bench 315, 365. Oh, I used to be way into heavy lifting and I benched 405. And not only could they not bench anymore or come close to those weights, but they also couldn't really do any pressing movements anymore because their shoulders and pecs were so beat up. And they're like, oh, all I can do is like machines. And I was like, holy shit, like, what happened to these people? What's wrong? What's going on? Why are they, well, you know, how'd this happen? And as I ran into some injuries, I started to see what was happening. I was pushing too hard sometimes because I was trying to be great, and I was redlining a little bit, And so I had to rethink how I was training and stuff like that. But I also wanted to come up with an idea that allowed people that love to train hard to still train hard and train through and around their injuries. And so I just started, while other people were maybe, just taking a shower or just taking a dump or just getting ready for bed at night or brushing their teeth, I was thinking because I was obsessed. I loved powerlifting. And I would sit there and think and fantasize about how I can get better, stronger, more explosive, how I can get bigger. And I would just think about that. It was in my head all the time. So I'd be in the shower and I'd be like, I wonder if I box squatted, but I sat onto foam and sank into the foam like you sink into your couch. That makes it hard to get up. I wonder what the training effect of that would be. I wonder if I overloaded and did a lot of my squats with my squat suit on, if my body would then get used to astronomical weights. If 900 pounds would no longer feel heavy because I wore something supportive that assisted me with 1,000 or 1,100. Eventually, I think the most I ever loaded up on a bar was 1125, I think. So I eventually did get used to those things, and those things did eventually work. And I started thinking about some of that for the bench. The most I ever loaded up on a bench, I think, is 925 pounds. I, at one point, I think, loaded up 10 45-pound plates on the bar on each side just because I could, and benched it. Now, I benched it in a short range of motion with a bench shirt on, but I sure as shit still lifted it. And you know what, to be honest, it didn't kill me. Like, it wasn't that bad. And I was like, okay, this equipment, much like a lifting belt or knee wraps, this equipment is supportive. It's helping me a lot. But my bones, my ligaments, and my tendons are still getting support. And not only are they getting support, but they're still very active in this whole process. So I always knew that would help build more integrity in the muscle joints, in the tendons, in the ligaments, even though they weren't getting worked the same way, because all my warm-up sets and stuff would still be done without the equipment. And now when I run, people are like, how are you not getting hurt running? Well, running's fucking easy compared to what I was doing before. This feels amazing. It's hard to breathe and hard to get that part down. And that took some time and some experience, but my feet don't hurt, my ankles don't hurt, my calves don't hurt, my shins don't hurt, my knees don't hurt, my hips are good. Everything's pretty good from running. And I can run almost every day for approximately 5 miles or so. So I built up a lot of resilience. And so with the Sling Shot, I thought, how can I bring that same idea and concept to the bench press? And I was messing around with some wrist wraps one day out of the back of the trunk of my car. And I had my dad hold the wrist wraps in the middle as I wrapped a wrist wrap around each elbow. And I pulled back and the wrist wrap strap hit him in the face. And he's like, oh, that didn't work. And I was like, no. I was like, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That resistance that I felt as I pushed my elbows back felt like the assistance that someone would give you on an incline dumbbell bench press when people spot you at the elbows in the gym. And it's kind of a cool metaphor here, is that the resistance of the Sling Shot gives you assistance, and the resistance of life gives you assistance. This right here is a stress. This is a stressor. People say stress is the number one killer. To me, stress is the number one killer of disease, not of life. Stress is the number one thing that we need. We need stress so we can mitigate our interpretations of things that are negative, and that these negative interpretations that we have, they only come from one spot. They come from right here. They come from within you. And your negative emotions come from negative interpretations. So the more skill set we can have, we can sprawl against life and not allow life to take us down. That assistance that the Sling Shot gives you ends up being a protector of the shoulder. When you wear a Sling Shot and you bring the weight down, it acts in a way as double muscle. The Sling Shot is stretching, so are your muscles on the way down. The Sling Shot contracts on the way up, so do your muscles. The Sling Shot allows you to handle more stress, allows you to handle more weight with less negative impact. This is what training does for us in general. And so, in inventing and creating the Sling Shot, once I kind of had that idea that it was going to be like an elastic-ish style band, it was a matter of taking that concept to somebody that knew how to manufacture it. And the rest is history. I mean, it wasn't really that hard. I think people are always looking for, hey, what were the obstacles? The only real obstacle was just getting started and having the confidence to know that my idea was going to be a good one. But the only reason I had confidence in it was because I had confidence in myself. At the time, I already benched 800 pounds in competition. So I already knew like what I was doing was benefiting me. I also saw it benefiting those that were around me. And so the idea grew. It started out as a spark, turned into a flame, and before you know it, it turned into a roaring blaze. Your idea can do the same. Your creation can do the same, but it's going to start with confidence. Oftentimes, people will ask, like, how do you be creative? Well, put yourself up against a wall and do some work that you're not used to, that makes you kind of uncomfortable, and your mind will be set off to space like a rocket ship. I'll give you an example. Go and do a set of leg extensions. Do a set of 8 to 12 reps, as heavy as you can, as hard as you can. Rest 15 seconds. Go at it again. Drop the weight a little bit, rest 15 seconds, go at it again. Rest 15 seconds, go at it again. So you can't do any more reps. You can do like one big drop set type thing, or however you got to do it. But put yourself up against the wall and really just stick it to yourself. Like really try to induce some change. Try to induce some muscle growth. And what will happen through that process is there's going to be chemicals released from your muscles. There's going to be chemicals and hormones and all kinds of things going on in your biology that are going to make you now in a favorable position to think differently. When you're done with that workout, go on a walk, listen to some music, and you'll be shocked at the creative thoughts that you start to have. Your creativity needs to be jostled, like it's in there somewhere. But you're not going to think of it, you're not going to necessarily think of it by just sitting on your couch doing a whole lot of nothing. You're going to have to put yourself into some different, not necessarily, like not everything always has to be uncomfortable. Not everything has to always be so difficult. But you do need experiences. You need to go out and get experiences. So try a cold plunge. Try a sauna. Try a run. Try learning the guitar. Try playing some pickleball with some friends. Like, go do some shit. And when you do some stuff, you know, maybe when you played pickleball with your friends, maybe you ended up with an injury in your ankle. But now you thought of like a cool ankle brace that everyone can benefit from because you talked to 5 other people and they're like, yeah, I hurt my ankle, I hurt my foot, I hurt my Achilles. And you can invent and create something that could be really beneficial for them. So when it comes to creativity, there's other things to factor in here. Like, not everything is an invention. You can create music. You can create happiness. Like Joe Rogan, obviously, like Joe Rogan's a creator, but Joe Rogan might not know that he's an inventor. He's an inventor and a creator. And those of you that create content for the internet, you're a creator as well. You're curating and creating all the time with maybe not really recognizing it. So just because you don't have a product or you're not selling something, that doesn't mean you're not creative. Again, thinking of someone like Ben Patrick, before he ever started to sell tangible products and machines and so forth, he was just selling you ideas. Those ideas are a creation. They're a belief. They're a byproduct of Ben's life experiences. What are your life experiences? Maybe you don't feel like you have any right now. And maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have a lot of different experiences. Well, you need to go out and try to figure out how to get some. Go to a concert. Go to a movie. When your friend invites you somewhere, go to it. Even if you kind of don't want to. Like, go get yourself out there a little bit. I was talking with my brother a couple days ago. He's been single for a pretty long time. And he mentioned to me about, you know, feeling lonely and things like that in the past. I said, you know, it might be one of those easy for me to say things because I've been married for many years, but I think loneliness is a choice to a certain extent because you get comfortable in it. And staying comfortable with the same ideas all the time makes a lot of sense. But the only way to get new ideas is to have experiences. And so you got to put yourself in a position where you can be creative. Put yourself in a position where you're going to feel good about yourself. Put yourself in a position where you're like, what makes you feel lonely? You know, these are the questions that you got to go through. And I've been saying this for a while now, but the greatest podcast that you will ever listen to, if you got the courage to do it, is one that you'll do with yourself. Mark, what encouraged you to move from New York to California when you were 21 years old? Well, I wanted new experiences. I didn't want the same experiences from my same hometown. I wanted to get out there, do something different, and just see how life felt on my own without the protective, you know, parachute of my parents. My brother was already out in Los Angeles, so I had the safety net of being able to do stuff with him, which was really helpful. But he didn't have anyone out here for him to do that. So sometimes you got to just be brave. But how are you going to be brave? You can't make something out of nothing. You need the correct ingredients. My brother was able to be brave because he was strong, physically strong, through powerlifting. We all started powerlifting when we were young. And also, he built confidence in his skill set of being a film director. He went to USC Film School, which is the most prestigious place you can go to for film. And so much of this stuff, when I think of creativity, I just think of confidence. When someone says, I'm not creative, I read that as, I'm not confident. Or I read that as just adhering to a limiting belief. There's no reason to be attached. These limiting beliefs of you saying, someone's like, hey, meet me at the gym tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And you tell them that you're not a morning person. It's like, man, you just missed out on a great opportunity maybe. Maybe you're gonna meet, what if you woke up, met your friend at the gym at 6 a.m. and you ended up running into the person you're gonna spend the rest of your life with? That sounds kind of cool. Or what if you meshed with somebody really well and you came up with an idea or a concept through going to that one workout, going to that one party or whatever it might be, where you created a business with somebody and then created a business where you hire other people. Now you're providing for people at Christmas time and during the holidays, and people are getting salaries and all kinds of cool shit's happening because you took that one chance. You gave yourself that one shot. You didn't feel lonely. You didn't feel embarrassed. You gave yourself that one chance, that one opportunity to go do something a little different, and you did it. And now you created something. So what I think is really kind of cool and interesting is that when I think of like, when I think of people talking about like life purpose, what's really neat about that is you get to make it up. I think that people that are like, man, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't feel like I have a purpose, they're just people that are maybe looking at things from a little bit of the wrong perspective. Because the people that have figured out their life's purpose, they know full well they just made that shit up. Like, I don't need to know that humans have a purpose for me to feel purposeful and for me to feel good. I don't really care. Human existence gets wiped out and it never meant anything to anyone or anything. I'm cool with that. I'm still going to live the best life that I'm going to live, and I'm still going to make up a purpose because a purpose gives me drive. It allows me to do the things that I want to do every day. And for me, my purpose is to make the world a better place to live. I made it up. That's just stupid stuff I made up. So it gives me an overarching theme that's kind of bigger than myself. I want to help other people. Kind of. I want to help myself more than anything. I want to feel good every day. I want to feel empowered. I don't really give a fuck about everybody else that much, but I do it enough to hire someone to film me while I'm running, while I'm talking, while I'm creating a podcast, because this is fun for me. I enjoy this. When I meet people and they say, hey, I lost 100 pounds because of you. I started running because of you. I started lifting because of you. I'm like, fuck yeah. Awesome. Maybe I helped you find your point or your purpose in life. And if I did that and that scurries out into the people that you love and care about, man, that's an awesome feeling. That feels really, really good that I was able to impact people in that way. And that's a creation in and of itself.
So you're working out, you're working on your nutrition, you're working on your feet, you're working on your sleep, and all these things are having benefit. But what's going on underneath the hood? What's going on with your hormones? That question is answered by working with MER Health. It's owned by Derek for More Plates, More Dates. And getting your blood work done by MER Health will help you understand what's going on under the hood. They have different panels that you can do once every 6 months or every single month so you can understand how your sleep, all these different protocols that you're adding into your routine are affecting your hormones. It's important to understand, and it's also important to know if what you're doing is actually working. Andrew, how can they get their hands on it?
Yes, that's over at merrickhealth.com/powerproject. And at checkout, enter promo code POWERPROJECT to save 10% off the Power Project panel, the checkup panel, or any individual lab that you select. Again, that's at merrickhealth.com/powerproject, promo code POWERPROJECT at checkout, links in the description, as well as the podcast show notes.
So another question I get asked quite often is about legacy. And I think when people think legacy, they think about like leaving behind like a treasure for their children and for the people that are kind of your family members and stuff like that. Or leave behind money and homes and businesses. I don't think that way at all. My legacy is my ideas. And hopefully my ideas propagate and they live within other people. And they help drive people. They help families. They help individuals who are depressed, or individuals who feel lonely, or individuals who feel sad. And it helps create a meme within them that they pass on to somebody else. To me, that's the ultimate legacy. To be able to help people in that way. To help change, not really change them, but to help give them different perspectives on different types of beliefs that you get to choose. I think that's one of the most important things for today, for today's lesson, and for being on what page, everybody? Page 43. The most important things is to know that you get to make this stuff up. They even say, oh, that guy's self-made millionaire. Well, we know that's not really true. We know everybody gets help. Everybody has luck. I'm really, really lucky. I'm really, really fortunate. I'm lucky in so many different ways. Yeah, I could do a whole podcast on that. On how goddamn lucky I am. It's an important thing to recognize. I feel very fortunate. But you can be lucky too. If you can start to realize the experts aren't really the experts are you. You're an expert in something. The people that are creative, Kanye or whoever it is, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, whoever you look up to that you think is creative, they may have created some cool stuff, but you get to do the same thing. Let's just talk about a couple practical things you can do to stimulate creativity. I think the easiest thing that you can do is walk. Go on a walk. And, try it in different ways. Try it listening to a podcast. Try it listening to music. Try it without any audio at all. Go into different spots. Be even creative with that. Go and drive out to somewhere. Go over here. I'll just shift over next to you if I need to. Drive to different spots for your walks. And if you like to jog, that would be great too, because I believe that if you're going faster than a walk, or if the walk turns into like a hike, and you got some hills and stuff like that, that when it's more challenging, the more creative you're going to end up being. So that would be great. Another way to be creative is to get yourself to breathe really hard. Maybe do some sprints on a bike, on like an assault bike, and do 5, 10-second, 85% strength sprints with a minute to 90 seconds in between. Really whatever you need recovery-wise. You don't want to recover for too long because you don't want to stiffen up. But maybe you do 15 seconds and then you rest a minute 45 or so, or a minute, depending on your fitness level. But get yourself to breathe really hard. I don't know why I feel so strongly about that, but I think breathing really hard, I think, helps with your sleep. Breathing really hard during the day, I think, helps with your sleep. And I also think that it can help you with creativity, because you can start to get yourself into some spots where you're just fatigued and tired, and your thoughts just start to change a lot. Another thing you can do to spark creativity is, well, here's what I do to spark creativity. I really enjoy Kratom. I have a product called Mind Bullet. You can check that out. People have questions about Kratom on whether it's addictive. The answer is yes, it can be addictive. So be forewarned. That's your warning. It can be addictive. I don't think personally that just because certain things are addictive that it's problematic, but I ain't no doctor. That's just my own personal belief. So I like Kratom, I like mushrooms, LSD, all these things you got to take with your own caution, do your own research, but I enjoy those things. On a safer level, you have a supplement called Subroxy, which I think is really good. That's one that I use from time to time. Alpha GPC is another one. Those are all things that help me be creative. Also THC, again, 5 milligrams or something could send one person to the moon. So you have to research it and understand what's going to feel right and feel good for you. Another area of creativity, I think, is, I always think that things can really spawn from good nutrition. And in this case, I think a little bit of fasting can help with some creativity. Not because you're producing ketones and because you're in a caloric deficit or anything, just because it's challenging. Just because there's so much noise going on all the time that we don't have an opportunity to just calm down and just think for a moment. So some fasting can be a good idea. You can even go old school, and you could fast and have a bulletproof coffee, which has butter and MCT oil in it. That's something I used to do long ago. And then I would go and I would journal. So that would be another huge home run, is the journal. Because, like, one of the things you're doing when you're journaling, you're either recording stuff that happened, or you're recording stuff that you want to have happen in some way. And so I have books upon books, composition notebooks of drawings and sketches of the X knee sleeves, of a bunch of other inventions I can't mention because they're still not done yet. But of even things like the steak shake, like, oh, let me make an awesome tasting shake that has no artificial sweeteners, but it also gives you, it titrates in liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas. I'm a big believer that those items, I'm a big believer that those items can be very nutritious for us. However, I also understand that they're disgusting. So I figured out a way to formulate a shake where you get all those nutrients. It's kind of like Mark Smelly Bell's answer to green supplements, athletic greens and things like that, is kind of go the opposite route and say, hey, we get a lot of great stuff from greens. We get a lot of great stuff from reds. We also get a lot of great stuff from meat. And so I made a product that has beef protein isolate, whey, egg. Those are all things that are really bioavailable, and we assimilate them well. And so that's how I created that shake, was just by kind of writing it out and having an idea. So journaling is really important. In addition to the steak shake, I also recently created another product because I had Andrew Zaragoza tell me, he's like, my wife has gluten allergy. I've had other people tell me they have egg, they have whey allergies, dairy allergies. So I made something called a full carnivore shake. The full carnivore shake, the full carnivore steak shake it still has liver, kidney, heart, spleen, pancreas in it. It has beef protein isolate, and it has collagen. There's no whey, so there's no dairy, there's no milk, there's no egg, because some people are allergic to eggs. There's no gluten. I took out every single allergen that you can possibly think of, and even ditched the MCT oil, because that comes from a fruit. I didn't want any plants in there. And so I kicked that out too, in favor of tallow. Tallow is just like a beef fat. So some of these inventions and creations, they come from people like you guys. This one came from Andrew and came from some customers. Give me ideas on other things to do. So that's where some of that creativity can come from. So I'd say that pretty much rounds it out in terms of the different things you can do and try to help rev up that creativity. For me personally, my creativity comes from walking, running, lifting, and again, the diet. Like if I'm full and I'm fed and I'm just not as hungry, I'm not as determined, I'm not as into it as I otherwise would be. So it's important for me to work hard every day. It's important for me to kind of set goals, and all those things, they assist with the creativity because I'm always doing something. Another thing about creativity that I often forget about is linking, pairing, and collaborating. Link people together, man. Yesterday, I linked Chris Williamson with BioLane, Lane Norton. Like, I'm not worried that they're gonna have like some cool relationship and that Lane Norton's gonna be able to like box me out of the fitness industry and do better than me. I don't ever think that way. I think like these two guys would be great if they knew each other. It'd be awesome if Lane got on that platform and had an opportunity to get on Chris Williamson's podcast. So I think that that's an area where people forget, is that I think we're thinking of creativity for ourselves, but if you think about it for other people, that can be really awesome too. And you can have a suggestion for somebody. Like, hey, have you ever met this guy? Have you ever met that guy? Or you ever had an opportunity to try this or try that? Like, I hook people all the time up with Piedmontese beef and stuff like that too. Again, because I'm collaborating stuff together and linking things together. So that might be something else to try. But of course, not least, put in the work, man. Put in the work. Work on strengthening your mind. Your mind gets strengthened from strengthening your body. You're going to be able to connect and do more stuff with your mind the more that you push into the physical side of things. So put in your work, because when you get momentum and you get movement, I say all the time, motion is the lotion. Movement is going to be stuff that's really going to move your mind. It's going to help strengthen your mind. And people that I follow and people that I like, I like their ideas. I like what I see from them via social media. I don't know these people that well, But I love what I see from Nick. Like, I do know Nick Bear pretty well. Nick Bear comes to mind. He's somebody I get great inspiration from and creativity. And then there's just like a huge list of other people that I'm friends with that are like that. But I think outside of the friends list, I think about like David Goggins, Joe Rogan, a lot of people like that really motivate and fire me up because they're pushing themselves. Or that famous speech from Steve Jobs, or even his slogan of think different. Like, I love that. Think different. Be different. Be made out of something different. How can you be made out of something different? You're going to have to work at it. You're going to have to try something as ludicrous as being a power lifter to now being a runner. You're going to have to try things that are going to change you and mold you, and they're going to end up making you question a lot of things about yourself. You end up having some self-doubt when you go from being really awesome at something to being new at something. Some of you just might need something novel to spark a flame. Some of you might need something new. You might just have continually gone to jiu-jitsu class, but you haven't challenged yourself in other ways in a long time. Maybe for some of us, maybe we got to challenge ourselves mentally more. Maybe we need to pick up a book and read, something I don't do very often. Maybe we need to learn. I know that for me, learning sparks a ton of creativity. Not necessarily reading. I really don't like reading, but I'll listen to videos on YouTube from famous authors. I'll listen to TED Talks. I'll listen to podcasts. So there's so many different ways to really drive creativity. And I hope more so from today, I hope that you learned that you get to reinterpret everything that you once knew. And you now get to make up who you are. Almost as if you're like living in a new area. You're starting with a new lease on life not because anybody else is different, and not because anything else is actually different, but because you're going to start to look at things a little differently. Try to be a little bit more positive. Try to be a little bit more optimistic. Pessimism has its place, and it's okay to fall back on some negative stuff here and there, but really be conscious of the things that you say about yourself, the things that you say about the people that are in your circle. Because over time, that can really drag you down. And you want to just continually try to work on and build yourself up. I think sometimes people think that's selfish. But again, I got to go back to this mantra of mine. The greatest respect you'll ever earn is called self-respect. How can you have more self-respect for yourself? If you're doing less, it's going to be very difficult to be more. You need a certain amount of ingredients every single day to do more and be more, and to be made out of something different. But you can do it. Make sure you're properly rested, properly hydrated, properly fed, and make sure you're willing to put in the work. Strength is never a weakness. Weakness is never strength. Catch you guys later. Whoosh.